Greetings and welcome to episode 9 of Inclusive Cultures based on the book that I wrote. This is Are Your Older and Younger Generations Feeling Valued? And this is rescheduled from the August session. My guest and I both had issues come up, and but we're happy to be here with you today. So I am Chris Jones. I am the CEO and a co-founder of Spectra Diversity. We are the only assessment that measures the individual and the organization in a single survey. So for organizations that are kind of surveyed out, it's a good option. Powering Inclusive Cultures is a book that is available on Amazon or on our website. And it is designed for actually business leaders. So if you are a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant or practitioner of some kind, you may want to give this book to your favorite CEO. My guest today is Christina Smith. So we have a Christine and a Kristina today. Christina is her company is Diversity and Inclusion Strategists, and we'll learn a little bit more about her when she gets introduced later. And today what we're going to cover, we're going to educate you on the differences and similarities with the 4 generations that are working today. We are going to dispel a few myths regarding each generation's stereotypes, and we are going to motivate you on some steps that you can take to add inclusive behavior towards the different generations. So generations that are not your own. So let's start with an understanding of the different generations that are out there today. We still have the silent generation, although they are largely out of the workforce. And this is my parents. They were born actually prior to the Great Depression. So they went through the Great Depression and World War II. They were there for the invention of penicillin and the first color televisions that appeared in the world. They are conservative, they are loyal, they respect authority. They are old school and they are resistant to change. By the way, this basic chart, it comes from, the information comes from Pew Research, but it is courtesy of Greg Ward, and his company is Respectful Leadership. So here's the generational influences and traits. We just did silent generation, and largely they are out of the workforce. Baby boomers are exiting the workforce. I am a baby boomer, I'll admit it. We were born post World War II. Vietnam War was a big thing. Also the Cold War, it began. And I remember right now, actually there's children are being taught how to escape from gun violence in school. We were taught how to escape from an atom bomb by hiding under our desks. Obviously, that would not have worked. We also were the first ones to get the polio vaccine, and I remember lining up for that. Baby boomers have a strong work ethic. There's an attitude that we are not tech savvy, which in my case is not exactly true since I have a tech company. We are competitive, true, and we are career driven. Generation X, some of you might be members of that are in our audience today. Civil rights movement was big for this group as they were growing up. The Cold War ended and women's liberation movement really took off. Gen X, independent, adaptable, cynical, and disengaged. And you can put in the chat if you actually think that applies to you if you are a Gen X. Millennials, this is where my kids are. Personal computers. It was personal computers, but it wasn't smartphones. My son, he jokes that he knows all different ways that he can get across, all different ways that you can die from malaria, and why you should always hang on to your oxen if you're traveling across country in a covered wagon. Which Oregon Trail, if you know that, you know why oxen are important. CDs were invented and the first cell phones came. Millennials are ambitious. They are tech savvy. They are socially conscious. And it is said that they are self-absorbed. Gen Z, and this is my niece and some other children that I know, young people that I know. Smartphones, they grew up with them. Cloud computing, not a problem. Gaming, streaming, they're all over it. They are digital, they are entrepreneurial, they are focused on DEI. However, they may lack people skills, is the thing there. And if you were to sum these up in what some of the stereotypes might be, the silent generation might think that millennials and Gen Z have no respect for their elders. Baby boomers might react to thinking that they're being managed by someone their kids' age and fresh out of school. Gen X might think that baby boomers are in the way and that they're too invested in success. Millennials may think that just because I'm younger doesn't mean I shouldn't be respected. And Gen Z says, what they're upset about is my company won't give me flexibility to work whenever and wherever I want. So I don't know if those ring true for you. For me, as a baby boomer, it does. So let's go to the next slide. Where is it? There it is. And I'm going to launch a quiz here, if I can get there. This is going to be, so get out your, how much do you know? So I've launched a quiz, and this is, we're going to see how much you know. Please answer the questions that you see on the screen. Question 1, it is possible, and let me know if you don't see the quiz. I think I've launched this correctly. Oh, I see people taking it. So it looks like it is happening. And one person has, 2 people out of 19. So I'd like to see more than 3 people. Excellent, 4 people. And we'll see when we have more participation, we will see how you do on aging. 9 people, 10 people, and we have 19. 11, 12. And I don't know if it's counting Christina and I as 2 of the 19 people. No, it's not. No, because there's 21 people. So 15 have signed in. 16. Good for you. Good for you. Okay, 16 have 17. Excellent. Oh, and I'm seeing some mixed results here. Cool. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. And there it is. And I hope you see the answers there.
No, we're not seeing the answers.
Oh, share results. Share results. And there it is. It is possible to improve some memory loss often experienced by the elderly. And that is true. Our brains are plastic. Our brains, the neuroscience has shown us that our brains can rewire themselves. So that is a true fact. The majority of older adults become senile or demented, and that is a false statement. And it's really kind of a low percent. I think it's, ooh, I should have printed this out. I think it's pretty low. It's like 25%, 30%. I will find that out.
Hey, Chris,
Yeah.
can you try resending the results? There are several people saying they're not seeing the results.
Show correct answers to all. I clicked a button. Do you see it?
No.
Well, show
Okay.
correct.
Okay, so other people are saying they can see it. I'm not seeing it, but that's okay because maybe because I'm a co-host. But other people are seeing the results, so I will keep going.
Okay, yeah, I clicked a button that said show correct answers to all, so I think they're all up there. Falling is one of the main causes of injuries in older results. And I actually had this happen recently to my mom. She tripped over someone in front of her in a wheelchair, had their scarf dragging on the floor. My mom tripped on it, fell down, and she ended up getting a blood infection in her leg from the bruise, and actually ended up spending a week in the hospital because of the blood infection from the bruise. 25% of all people over 65 live in institutions, and that is a false one. A lot of people end up living in their homes or, with other family members. Depression is a serious problem for older adults, yes. And this becomes even more common as they get older because their friends, the older you get, the fewer friends you have, and you have to keep making new friends. And it's even more common for men. Personality changes with age, and that is false. If you're a nice person when you're younger, you're a nice person when you're older, typically. Stress in a caregiver's life is rarely a factor for triggering abuse of an older adult, and that is false. And family members today do not provide as much care for their older relatives as they did in the past, and that is false. And as someone who has elderly parents, I know this one also from experience, but the answer there is in fact false. So stop sharing, and I'm going to go to, and we've got another quiz. And this one is, how much do you know about Gen Z? And this one, it takes me a second to do this, polls, and I am going to, polls, back. Gen Z launch. Okay, I have launched quiz number 2. And this one is about Gen Z. And I hope you can see that. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Gen Z is the last generation to have a white majority. And I see nobody is answering yet. Oh, there we go. 1%. More than one. Oh, there we go. Okay, 4, 5. There we go. 7, 8. Thank you, thank you. "15 have answered, 16, 17. Okay, it looks like 17 is our, 19. And a few people are still taking it. We'll give you just another minute or two. And 20 people have done it. I am going to end this poll. End poll. Share results and show correct answers to everyone. And this one is this was me being tricky. All the answers are true. So Gen Z is in fact the last generation to have a white majority. Gen Z is generally progressive and pro-government, and we'll learn more about that in a minute. Gen Z is more likely to be children of immigrants compared to millennials. True. Gen Z is on track to become the most educated generation yet. True. Gen Z is the first truly digital generation. True. Gen Z is more likely to have college-educated parents compared to millennials. True. Gen Z is less likely to be working during their teen years compared to previous generations. True. And this was surprising to me. And I talked to a few I just did little family research here. And in my family, all my millennials in my family, they all had part-time jobs when they were teenagers. And all of the Gen Zs did not. Their parents just supported them, and they just expected them to do well in school, and that was it. Gen Z agrees with millennials that climate change is due to human activity. And yes, in fact, they are in agreement there. So that's Gen Z. How much did you know? And Jessica, thank you. Yeah, it seems as a millennial, I know nothing about Gen Z. Yeah, it was surprising. It was surprising to me too. And this cartoon, I just want to give a shout out. This is from the book. Do the math. For your vet bills alone, we can hire 2 pups. And that goes to the aging. So this is a little test that you can take if you want to see where your own biases may lie, is the Harvard Implicit Association test. It's a free test. A lot of people take it for race or gender. They also have one for age. And this is where it shows up that people have a bias for age. And you can see that 30% of people have of all the people that have taken it, have a bias for young people, a strong bias. 30% have a moderate bias, 17 have a slight preference, 15% have little or no preference. And I'm gonna own up right here. I am part of the 4%. I have a slight preference for old people. And I'm working on it. To me, because I'm older, I guess, I think age has wisdom, age has experience. Age is a good thing. Age means you've read more books. Age means you know what kind of, thank you, Jessica. Age means that, you know what kind of birds are at your bird feeder. Age has all kinds of benefits, and yeah. So anyway, I have started to ask my millennial children for advice on a much more frequent basis, and to trust their judgment in a number of matters, excuse me. So that's me. Yep, that's me right there. 4%. Slight preference for old people. So this is part of excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. This is Spectra Diversity's data on age. And this is how people of different age groups view management. And here you see the 18 to 24-year-olds, that's the Gen Zs, and they have a more positive view of management. Whereas the 25 to 34, 35 to 44, that's where you're getting into the millennials. They're more negative. And I always say that that data tells us the what, it doesn't tell us the why. In this case, it could be, what we have learned about earlier, that the generation Gen Z is that they are okay with government attitudes and things. We're going to learn more about that in a second. But you can see as it goes up, the older people are more comfortable with management. And here's the same pattern. There on the left is the Gen Zs, then it drops down to millennials and climbs back up to baby boomers. And here's the same thing with policies, practices, and procedures. So, the pattern is clear. And like I said, I'm a broken record on this. The data tells us the what, it doesn't tell us the why. Here is more. Oh, and if you want more data, we have, I encourage you to download the Spectra annual reports. We've got 3 of them in there. Excuse me. So this was a recent report, and it only looked at women, but it asked women, and this was the by the YWCA recent report, just came out, and women were asked, what are your top issues? And the 28%, 36%, 42% adds up to more than 100%, because it asked what their top issues, plural, is. And you can see that racial justice for Generation Z, 28% of Gen Z thought that it was important. Abortion access, 36% said that it was important, one of their top issues. And the economy, 42% said that it was one of their top issues. Yeah, so that's where they are. And this is even more interesting. And this is from Ipsos. This was, once again, this is really recent. This is just a month old, I think. Men and women, here's the differences. I have no preference for gender of political leaders. And here's Gen Z, 57 versus 56%. And if you're following the polls right now, which is a really very disheartening and gross thing to do right now, but you'll see that men and women, in terms of their politics right now, are very divided in terms of what they think about the current state of affairs. Not so with Gen Z. Men and women, 1 percentage point difference. Look at the second one. Men are expected to do too much to support equality. Men think, yeah, 62% of men think that they're expected to do too much in terms of, dishes or I don't know what. But so do women, almost half of the women think that men are expected to do too much. I define myself as a feminist. 52% of women, which I would think that might be higher, just 34% of men. And, men can be a feminist. You're a feminist if you believe that, women can be equal to men. Gender equality discriminates against men. 60% of men agree with that statement. And 40%, which I thought was high, of women agree with that statement. And then this last one on the bottom, men who stay at home with their children are less of a man. 31% of men think that, and 20% of women. Alfred wants to know, do you know if the Ipsos survey was demographically diverse? Yes, it was. But they did not break this down by this particular, this was not broken down in terms of their results. They did not break it down by race and ethnicity, but it was inclusive of race and ethnicity when they gathered all their data, but they didn't do a breakdown of it, if that makes sense. So, I'd really like to know more about this. If anybody has any insights into why there is this difference between young men and young women, why, other than Rogan, what's his name? Joe Rogan, other than Joe Rogan, what is driving this? I'd like to know. So this brings us to my guest speaker, Christina. I forgot the A. I'm so sorry. Christina Smith. And we've got a Smith and a Jones. We've got a Chris and a Christina. We're just so, and we commented, I've got stripes on today. She's got stripes on today. We're just so incredibly in sync. So, Christina, if you want to unmute yourself, and I will advance the slides from here on out. And how we met, I'm not sure how we met, but we've known each other for several years now. And I don't know how we met.
I actually think I was looking for a survey for my clients, and I ran across Spectra diversity assessment, and I'm sure that's how we met, for sure.
Okay.
I love the comments. Yeah, I love the comments that are in the chat. People are talking about people forget what it's like to be old until you become older. It's really funny. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So we're going to be continuing to talk about undervaluing older and younger employees refers to not fully recognizing or appreciating skills, experiences, and potential contributions. And I also see Mesha put in the chat that, the oldest generation that's in the workforce right now, the baby boomers, and the younger generation, literally, there are organizations that are doing reverse mentoring. And what's happening is they are getting the best of both worlds. They're getting the best of the institutional knowledge that older folks have. And when they're meeting with younger folks, they are able to learn the technology. So it's really an amazing thing when it can be done in an organized way. It's fantastic. So let's go to the next slide, please, Chris. And so we want to take a moment before we move on. And if you would put in the chat How does undervaluing older employees show up in the workplace? How does undervaluing older employees show up in the workplace? If you were someone assessing a situation in an organization and you were walking around, what would you see that demonstrates that older employees are being undervalued? So asking people when they're going to retire, yes, Luana. Um, Lose institutional information, relationships, and loyalty, yes. Assuming they can't do technology, absolutely, Chris. Not asking their opinion or not thinking they can do something technical, absolutely. I have met some people who are older who know more technology than some younger folks. Dismissive behavior in meetings as your generation believes that they say is not valid anymore. Yes. Not included in small groups, not asking their opinion or not thinking they can do something technical. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
I
Let's go
like
to
that
the next.
one, hesitant to hire someone because they're afraid that they're gonna retire soon.
Yes. So I have to tell you, once upon a time when I was looking for work, I sent out my resume, but I did a functional resume, which means I didn't include dates that I graduated from college or anything else. And the person came back to me, the recruiter came back to me and said, "You are exactly what you're looking for. Can you put your dates in?" And once I did, I never heard from them again. I thought, oh, this is so interesting. All right, Chris, hit the yes. So all three of these and all the things that you mentioned in the chat are absolutely true. We make assumptions about tech skills that people can't do technical things. They can't do all kinds of things. Overlook experience and think it's not important, limiting opportunities for advancement. I have heard some older people say, I'm just here until I retire. So that kind of language doesn't help. If I'm a manager and I'm trying to figure out, I've got limited budget, and who am I going to send for advancement opportunities? We want to be mindful about that. And the perception of adaptability. So, how does undervaluing younger employees show up in the workplace? So, can you put that in the chat? How does undervaluing younger employees show up in the workplace? Ooh, thinking they are lazy, assume they don't have the experience, assuming they don't have enough experience to listen to their ideas. Mm-hmm. Seen as job hoppers, that's a big one. Oftentimes now I hear recruiters say that a lot of millennials, Gen Zs, Gen X, their thing is I stay 2 years at a job and then I'm off to the next, not giving them responsibilities, not respecting their time, not committed, no nothing, soft. They're soft, want everything with no work, acting on stereotypes. Great. Go ahead, Chris. So there's the lack of experience, stereotype, overlooking potential, assuming low responsibility tasks, and generational bias. So all the things that you've put in the chat fall under that category of generational bias. Absolutely. So here are some ways to honor older employees. And I'm not saying that this is not true for everyone across the board, but these rise to the top as some of the most impactful ways to honor older employees. So leverage their experience and wisdom. We all know what that feels like when someone comes to us because they value the experience and the wisdom that we have around whatever. Next, continuous learning and development. What we're going to see shortly is that across all of the generations, people want to learn and grow in their job. Next, acknowledge their contributions. Especially for someone who's been in the workforce for quite some time or on a particular job, they want to be acknowledged. Even if it was 10 years ago, they made something extraordinary happen. We want to acknowledge the fact that they are part of the institution and part of what makes that organization great. Flexible work arrangements. Oftentimes we think of younger folks as the people who want flexible work arrangements, but older folks want that too. They may want to go pick up the grandkids. They may want to go for a doctor's appointment. So they're very much invested in or interested in flexible work arrangements. And we want to help combat ageism. So if I'm a leader in an organization and I'm hearing people talk about older folks as they're just waiting for retirement or they're not contributing or what they have to contribute is outdated. We want to have conversations around that. We want to, really combat that. Next. And so here are some ways to honor younger employees. So we want to encourage innovation because Gen X, millennials, Gen Z grew up in a time where technology was really, in some cases, just getting started, and in many cases, booming. They really do know so much about how to use technology. And because they've been exposed to so much through technology, oftentimes there are very innovative ways that they can make things move faster or take things to another level. So we should definitely encourage innovation. Next, mentorship programs. So like I was mentioning, reverse mentoring is amazing. Give younger people an opportunity to learn the historical or the institutional knowledge about how an organization got where they got, and learn maybe some leadership skills from leaders so that they are able to advance in their career and move up, and then also using their skills to help older folks use technology more efficiently. Value fresh perspectives. It's really interesting. As I'm watching commercials on television, I actually, in many cases, can tell when a commercial was conceived and implemented by a younger person. And I laugh because some of them I look at and say, that is brilliant. I would have never come up with that idea. I just would have never come up with that idea. But what I see is a fresh perspective, and I'm loving it. I'm loving what I'm seeing. And I'm sure if I could find out who did this, it would have been somebody in Gen Z, Gen X. Provide opportunities for growth. Everyone wants to grow and develop. Everyone wants to be challenged at work. And then the last one, promote work-life integration. Yeah, Mesha put in the chat that a lot of times younger folks are thought to, they want to be in the car at 5:01. They want to be out of there. And how do we figure out a way where they actually can do their best work? I am hearing from my daughter, who is a millennial, who, loves working from home and then loves coming into the office. And so figuring out what work, where do people do their best work? Where do people do their best work? And so we want to look at ways that all the generations are similar to one another. So if we think about them, there are many different things that everyone wants. Wait a minute. Okay, here go. So everyone has the desire for respect. Everyone wants to be respected. I don't care what generation you're in, you want to be people want to be respected. People want work-life balance. I think even for boomers, I think gone are the days where boomers, and I'm in that generation. I used to work 18 hours a day, seriously, 16 hours a day, 12 hours a day, whatever it took to get the job done. I don't think most people want to do that anymore. People want work-life balance for sure. Across all of the generations, people desire purpose. They want to know that what they're doing contributes. I'll never forget 100 years ago, John F. Kennedy Jr., the then president, was walking through NASA in Florida, and he stopped a gentleman who was mopping the floors. And he asked the gentleman, what did he do there? And the gentleman said, I'm helping to put a man on the moon. So his job was tied to the purpose of the organization. People want to know where is what I'm doing connected to the bigger picture. They want to have meaning to their work, and they want to contribute to the larger goal or mission. And also, there is appreciation for feedback. I'm going to do just one more. Appreciation for feedback. People want feedback. They want to know how they're doing and if they're doing a good job, for sure. So in what ways are generations different? So let's go to the first one, Chris. The first one is the baby boomers. There's a real focus on work ethic, and that's defined as valuing dedication, loyalty, long hours. They prioritize job security and stability, in some cases more than younger generations. Their communication style is they tend to prefer face-to-face communication or phone calls over digital methods, valuing personal interactions. They're focused on hierarchy and authority. Boomers often respect traditional hierarchies and may be more comfortable with established authority structures in the workplace. They focus on experience and expertise. They may take pride in their deep industry knowledge and seek to mentor younger colleagues. They're very loyal in most cases to the job. They are sometimes resistant to change, and their focus is on benefits. They want to prioritize things like health insurance, retirement plans, and planning for the future. And then the next one is Gen X. And Gen X really desires independence. They're seen as self-reliant and independent. They've grown up in a time where many of them were latchkey kids. This fosters a preference for autonomy in their work. Skepticism, they tend to be more skeptical of authority and traditional corporate structures. Work-life balance, unlike boomers who may prioritize job loyalty, Gen X emphasizes work-life balance, often seeking flexible work arrangements. Yes, Alfred, we'll get the points that I'm making. And they're tech savvy. And last one for Gen X is they do value diversity. They're more open to diversity in the workplace and advocate for inclusivity compared to previous generations. Millennials have distinct traits and values that differentiate them from other people. They grew up with the internet and smartphones, so they're very tech savvy. They expect to use this technology at work to enhance their work experience. They value purpose, as do all generations. Work-life integration is important to them. Career mobility. Millennials prioritize flexibility, and work-life integration, often valuing experiences over traditional benefits like job security. And I'm sorry, career mobility. They're more likely to change jobs frequently, seeking opportunities that offer growth and new challenges rather than sticking with one employer for decades. The reason why that's so important is because if you are a leader in an organization, that needs to be top of mind if you want to retain millennials. If they are not feeling like they're challenged and growing, they're going to hop jobs. They're looking for how fast can I grow? How much can I learn? How much responsibility, in some cases, can I have? And so they are focused on learning. Next is Gen Z. They are what we call digital natives. Having grown up with smartphones and social media, Gen Z is extremely comfortable with technology and expects seamless digital communication and collaboration tools. They value authenticity. They prioritize authenticity and transparency in communication and expect organizations to be genuine in their values and practices. They focus on mental health. Wow, this is huge. This is really, really, really huge. I was working with a client who is a Gen Zer, and she asked my team and I to come in and do some work with them around mental health. But when I talked to her constantly, she was saying, we can't meet that day. I'm taking a mental health day. I mean, she did that a lot. And I was really just a little fascinated by that, but for them, mental health is really important, as it should be to all of us. I am not downplaying that. I'm just saying that that is really big in their paradigm. And then we saw it with the Olympics. We saw it with, Simone Biles taking last year, whatever it was, in Japan. She decided, I need for my mental health. And the tennis whiz, I can't think of her name at the moment, but she took time off for her mental health. So people, this is important.
Christina, there's a
And
question.
also one more thing. The last thing is Gen Zers have a global perspective. Having access to global information and cultures through the internet, they tend to have a broader worldview and appreciate global collaboration. Go ahead, Chris.
There's a question. Do you have any good articles or books for continued learning?
I have some. I'll have to look them up. If you,
Why don't you
I'll
send them to me, and when I send
yes.
when I send the PowerPoint as a PDF, I will include your recommendations.
Okay, cool. That's great.
Okay,
And then was that it?
I think so. How can leaders bridge the generational gap?
So are you doing that, Chris?
No, you are.
Oh, I am. Okay. So I do think it's really important to model diversity. And sometimes people are unaware. Like let's think about leaders who are all white males and who literally don't even realize that there aren't other people represented there. I did a workshop one time. I'm going to share this really quickly. I did a workshop one time. It was open to women. We were focused on Black women and white women, and across the globe, we had a global community. And we were talking about what things could they do when they went back to their jobs to invite more inclusivity. And one CEO went back and realized, even in our meeting, that all of her leaders, 24, were all white males and females. And all she did was ask the question, who's not at the table? And everybody looked around and thought, everybody's here. And she asked again, who's not at the table? And it was amazing because finally somebody picked up on, wow, I just realized everyone here is white. So she would ask that at the beginning of every staff meeting. And within about 3 or 4 months, her leaders were beginning to promote people who were different from the people in the room. And over the past year, it increased by about 10%, which she felt was really good for her organization. So modeling diversity means, what can I do with where I am? What's next? Avoid sending mixed messages. Why don't you speak to that, Chris?
Well, this is walking, walking the talk.
Mm-hmm.
If you say that inclusion is important, but you don't have any ERGs, or if you do have ERGs, but you don't give them any money to do anything, how important are they? Or if you have a chief diversity officer and they report to HR instead of reporting to the CEO, how important is that person? It's those are just some of the mixed messages that could be there. It's also like a mixed message could be something, and we have this activity in our in our training. If you say that being on time, we work from 8 to 5. That's our hours. But if everybody comes strolling in, and then they go get their, breakfast burrito, and then they have that, and then they chat and they take an hour for lunch. And if at 5 o'clock, if you're there at 5 o'clock and you're the only one that's still in the office, well, you don't work from 8 to 5. You work from 8:30 till, noon, and then from 1 till 4:30. What messages are you sending as a leader based on what is happening, that people can see? It doesn't take a rocket science to figure out that, what is happening. The unwritten rules of your company do not match the written rules of your company. So that's just a couple of examples.
Yeah, Alfred, I put a question to you back in the chat. Can you say a little bit more about your question? Yes, and it's really important to assess team dynamics. Are women are men over talking women in an organization? Is an older man over talking a younger woman in an organization in meetings? I had a woman, white female, who was being overtalked by white males constantly. And you know what she did? And she was at a very high level in the organization. She got the young man who works in the mail room, who's a white male, to come to all the meetings with her. And his only job was to repeat what she just said. And he would sit next to her. And if she said, I think we should buy new party favors for our Christmas party, or whatever it was that she said, and no one would respond, and then it would go to him and he'd say the exact same thing, and everybody would say, that's a great idea, we love that idea. And she just said, that is really sad. So anyway, understanding the dynamics, paying attention to what's going on within a group between the generations, the genders, non-conforming folks. It's like really important to understand all of that. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Alfred. Thank you for clarifying that. His statement is, sometimes culture or place of origin often have distinct ideas and interaction among generations. Thank you for saying that. You're absolutely correct. And with us working globally, there are certain cultures where if you're younger, you don't look the older person in the eye. If you are, a woman, you do things differently in some cultures than you do in um, uh, maybe in American culture. What I would strongly suggest is that as companies are expanding and becoming more inclusive and becoming globally engaged, that people hire someone to come in and do courses on cultural competence. We all need to become culturally more competent as we are dealing with people across cultures. Absolutely. That's really, really, really important. And then based on that, the last point that Chris put up is create guidelines and expectations. Oftentimes people cross boundaries and expectations because they don't really understand that, in fact, this is not appropriate. So creating guidelines. That's great, Don. That's great. That's absolutely great. So, yes, guidelines help so much. Mm-hmm.
And there's, in your policies, practices, and procedures, there can be biases that you don't know that are there. There's some organizations I know in hiring that they take out the names because names can be if your name is a certain ethnicity, that can lead to a bias in hiring. There could be bias in hiring by your university, depending on where you went to school. Or what if you didn't go to school? What if you have experience, but you don't have a degree? There's all kinds of bias that could be in your policies, practices, and procedures. I know that there was one time when there was unemployment was was super it was hard. It was really hard to get a job. And a friend of mine was hiring for she worked in a school system, and she was hiring for teachers' aides. And they wanted a teacher's aide, which was essentially just a low level, starting salary, no, it was an hourly wage. It was like, $15 an hour or something. And they wanted to have, they had people with master's degrees and doctoral degrees applying for this job. Well, where is there was bias in the job description, but that was showing up in actually in the people that were applying for this job, because the job was written as though you needed this advanced degree. But, really that's not what it was about, to be a teacher's aide. Basically, you were, it was a much lower level of a job than that, but that's who was applying. And they had multiple people applying, 35 people applying for one job and advanced degrees. So, in your policies, practices, and procedures, I guarantee you there is bias. There is a study on that name thing. Yes, there is. And there's been lawsuits on those name things. So yes. So
Chris, we're at the top of the hour.
Oh, we
already.
are. We
Yeah.
are. I'm going to skip this because we are at the top of the hour. So I am just going to say to Kristina, thank you. And I can tell you that I know who is here, and I can do a random drawing when we're done here and give away 2 books. And I would like to invite you all to our bonus session. And it will be just me, but it's how you can turn your DEI data into employee retention. And I invite you all to come, and it will be a little data intensive, but I hope that you will enjoy it. And thank you so much, Christina.
You know what, Chris, I realized all this time I haven't been on screen.
Oh, I think that it depends on how people have their view set up.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, it's how people have their view set up.
Okay.
I think we're both there. Yeah.
Okay, good. Oh, that's
Okay,
funny.
thank you, everyone.
Thank
Yes,
you, Chris.
Christina.
This
Thank
was
you, thank
delightful.
you. Bye, everyone. And how do I end? Stop share. Stop share. And end. Bye.
So Adrian lost